I'm not trying to have this episode be our lost episode or anything. I'm not trying to add like lost media to the lore of the Honored Ones podcast.
For sure. And we got good chapters to talk about this week. So
Oh,
I
dude,
think,
like, just we have so much
yeah.
to talk about. And honestly, I just want to get this out of the way. To anybody listening, I'm so sorry. Like, I messed up completely. You know, it's on me. I lost my audio for the first time we shot this episode, so we had to scrap it and reshoot it. But I think this is a blessing in disguise because, I guess now that you know, it's never happening, or God, no, oh my God, knock on wood. But now that it's being reshot, I can tell, like, we can just kind of discuss how last episode went. Bro, we totally underestimated how doing a top 10 thing, like how long that would be. It's such a massive undertaking when you're actually doing it, right? When you're concepting it, it's like, oh yeah, these are my 10 favorite things of 10 favorite things of 10 favorite things, whatever. Like, it's my own preference. Obviously it's easy, right? But you don't consider like the time it takes to explain certain placements, certain categories being more important than others. So we just like scrapped the idea halfway through the episode, and it was really funny.
Yeah, I mean, it was very funny because I was like, dude, this is like a longer than normal length podcast, and we're like maybe 4 spots through the top 10s, and I was like, okay, yeah, this we're kind of pushing it.
Yeah, like,
but I guess we now know to be a little bit more conservative, or at least be more well prepared when we make another top 10 video.
Dude, for real, we I think it's safe to say we bit off a little bit more than we could chew for that one, and I think for this one I'm just gonna dial it way back to like favorite top 10 like on anime, manga, and like fiction. I think that's a pretty healthy mix. We can add one of our other top 10s if you're feeling up for it, but I think those are just like the ones we need to touch on the most, just to keep on brand to the Honored Ones podcast.
For sure. Yeah, I think it'll be quicker. I think we'll be able to like expand on like our points more as well anyways, so I think that should be cool. Are we doing that this episode? I don't know how that is. That we're doing this episode? Are you doing that?
Kind of like, honestly, what I'm trying to shoot for this episode is kind of like a return to form, because it feels like we're out of practice a little bit. And you know, speaking of things that we haven't done in a while, it's been a while since we've talked about like a current manga chapter or Shonen Jump release on the podcast, and I didn't realize this, but like they were the best way to start these episodes, dude. They gave us like so much structure, really good jumping off point to like our main topic. I'm not saying we were like reliant on them, but like we were reliant on them not for content, but for like making sense of this thing that we decided to call a podcast.
I think it is just a good like tone setting type thing. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, and also I think it was usually fun just to talk about JJK chapters because neither of us really do it on our channels.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, I tweet about it, right? But that's not really the same as like having like an in-depth discussion on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like the same way, especially because I'm always too I don't want to say lazy, but I really hate just like having to download the PNGs of the pages for like 2 tweets and just having them in my library after that, because like you can't use every single panel for a meme. So I don't know, like that's just me.
Yeah, no, I can feel that.
You know, also it feels like, okay, I have to explain a little bit of Kreams reading lore here. So I'm a fan scanner. You know, this is a thing we've talked about in the past, and that means I like to read the fan scans that go up early on Friday. BR over here likes to wait for the official release on Sunday.
I like reading the chapters just to support the official release, but also because when you like on Sunday is just much better. People are theorizing a lot more, things like that. At least the people I follow and like to like talk to or whatever, or see their thoughts on, mentioned it on Sunday. So seeing that reaction, I'm still having my initial reaction, is just to me more exciting. And considering the fact I don't make content on it early, it just doesn't matter.
So my rationale is I don't do content about it, so it doesn't really like matter to me how I go about discussing it, because reading manga on Fridays is like a thing I enjoy doing personally, and I don't make content on. I don't feel the need to change my behavior.
So basically, you have your ritual, and you don't feel the need to change it because it's not necessary for content. Yeah. I feel that.
And also,
yeah, I don't really care if people read fan scans as long as you're not spoiling.
Yeah, that actually leads me to my next point. Care. So, like, even though I'm like insanely hyped about it when I read it on like Friday morning, right? First thing I want to do is just like hop on Twitter and like just get into the fucking weeds with everything. But then I'm like, man, I just know then at like 2.3 seconds after I post that tweet, I'm gonna get a DM from you like asking me what the fuck I'm doing on your timeline, posting spoilers.
Yeah.
So I just figured
Yeah.
it was the polite thing to do to just not talk about it. But then by Sunday, right, it's like kind of 2 days in to the process of like having already read it, so I'm already off the hype train. So I do kind of feel like I'm missing out on like the community's like collective excitement. But I don't know, there's something
Yeah.
just so fun, especially when like it's like a normal Friday, no story that I follow is on break or anything. When I wake up, like I get paid. And then I get like a new JJK chapter, a new My Hero Academia chapter. There's like something just like enjoyable about a Friday morning when you have all these things just like stacked together, just waiting for you when you wake up. It's like it feels good, and that's like why I do it.
Yeah, and I mean that's understandable. I just look at it as it's a system that's set up, but in order for these creators to, in my opinion, be rewarded for their work, purchasing it is a small part I can play, and it's not like I'm some altruistic whatever. I like also having the manga, right? I'll say this too. When I buy a manga, I take no like for example, Jujutsu Kaisen, I don't read it on the Shonen Jump app or Manga Plus or any official app when I read it online, right? I already have all the manga. So like for example, when I read the new chapter, right? And I think we can segue into the new JJK chapter of this. But I read the new JJK chapter on Manga Plus today, right? After today, I will never read it on Manga Plus again. I'll read it on the site that shows the scans that just like literally just post the translations, just because it's more convenient, right? The Shonen Jump app makes you jump through a few more hoops in order to read every chapter. I just don't want to do that. I feel like I've done my part. I plan on buying every volume that he puts out.
Oh.
So I can personally justify it to myself as like, yeah, sure, I read this chapter technically on a third party site, but when the volume drops, I'm getting the volume.
Man,
so
it's interesting that you say that, because I was thinking about maybe expanding my physical manga collection to just not be more than One Punch Man. And obviously the first series I was gonna do is JJK, because I really think it like excels as a manga. And I was like, oh, okay, if I do this, it like actually does support Akutami in a more substantial way than just me reading it online. And the only reason I hesitate to do it is just because like I have this weird thing about I still haven't gotten over it yet, bro. This is how I know I'm a fucking anime like purist at heart. I have trouble buying volumes for things that are already animated. Like unless the anime is just so horrendously awful, like so unwatchable in every way, that like I feel the need to like only do the manga as like a way to like wash my hands or like wash my eyes from it. It's a whole other matter. But with JJK, I'm more lean because like only 60 chapters got animated, if that.
Yeah, like 63 or
right.
something like that.
So I'm like, okay, so majority of it is still in manga form, and theoretically I can just like buy Shibuya and call it a day, right? It's so hard to buy a manga for a story that's still not done.
Yeah, you can keep going.
No, sorry, Sukuna. It's the one with Sukuna on the... Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
14. Yeah, that one is what I'm excited for.
That comes out February 1st. And I know I'm going to be looking at it. I'm going to be like, this is so close to where the manga is currently at right now. Like right now at the present moment in time, that it almost feels like wrong to have it already be made physically. Like it's only 195 pages. I don't know. It's still beyond ongoing.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. For me, you mentioned a point that I thought was very interesting. Because you said you could just buy Shibuya. I don't know if it's just a quirk for me or something, but I absolutely hate having, if I buy a series, right? Barring extenuating circumstances, I plan to finish that series, not necessarily even finish reading it, finish having it in my collection. Like, I couldn't just get let's say like I don't know, the flashback arc of JJK and just leave it at that, because I really like that arc. And even if I wanted to collect physicals just for that, I'd have to get the rest of the manga, because just seeing like volume 7 and 8 on my shelf would aggravate me infinitely.
Wow.
It would just be so annoying. Dude. I'd genuinely be like, I don't know if antsy is the right word. It would just irk me. It would be
the exact opposite. For me, it's so like purely about completion, right? But like in story wise, like narratively, not volume wise, because I want to be able to binge a story anytime I want. So if I'm buying like physical manga volumes, my one rule is the arc has to be over. Like I dislike anticipation, I dislike tension, just like as a person. Like not this isn't a rule I apply to like story, right? I mean, I don't like the feeling. I think you need it. That's a whole other bag of worms, but like that's basically when it comes to just my personal consumption of a series. I'm like, no, I need this to like be over. I need to know that like there's a resolution, there's an ending, yada yada yada. And we're just gonna go straight into the chapters. And I do want to start with My Hero for a bit, just because it's like almost an uneventful chapter.
So uneventful, but I will say this chapter was dope. I think this is an uneventful, good chapter. I think this is good for Toga's character. I like seeing this. To me, I'll put it like this. To me, Horikoshi, I won't say never. He rarely fumbles when he focuses on his villains, right? I think this chapter is good for characterization, right? It's a slow chapter that's cool, but I think Toga going back to her roots and showing like a little bit of sort of hesitation to move forward, right? And Dabi being the one to kind of like encourage her and like burn her past or whatever is nice. I think the buildup of revealing that they have twice as blood, so now she's like this huge war-altering threat now, right? Is good, and I think that it's going to set up one of two things, right? Either Hawks is going to kill her, which is what the bird thing might have been foreshadowing for, or Uraraku is going to like kind of like save her, the thing that she couldn't do earlier in the series. Either way, I think Horikoshi's kind of used this chapter as setup for that. I like Dabi acting as like an accelerant towards her villainy, if you will. But I do think that this chapter was very good for foreshadowing, and this is going to be something that we can use to look back when something happens, right? She doesn't seem as enthusiastic as she was before, like in the earlier aspects of the series.
I mean, I just kind of feel like Horikoshi just hates the trees, dude, with the amount of paper and ink this guy's wasting on these like dumb filler chapters. I don't know. I think maybe out of the last 5 or 6 chapters, maybe 3 pages each of these chapters was something important.
I just disagree. I think something can be I think this entire chapter is important. I think something can be important without it moving the plot forward very quickly.
But at the same time, let's be a little honest here, man. We didn't need a whole. There was too many pages. There was too much ink and too much of Horikoshi's life wasted on drawing Hatsume's whole thing. Like that chapter was actually
No, I agree. That chapter is bad. Well, I will say that's like to me that's what you can call a filler chapter. Not because it does the same thing, but it does the same thing for a character that I think doesn't really matter. So I guess I can explain the difference, because I talked about like how when I don't know if that video is even out. I can't even remember because it's been so long since we recorded it. But we were talking about how the Hatsume chapter was kind of like just a waste of space, right? And I still hold by that. I think the Hatsume chapter is, all things considered, not necessary to moving the plot forward, right? I even think last chapter was kind of inane. Like I will say the Aizawa and Aoyama portion was pretty cool, but but the beginning aspect was very meh for me, right? But this chapter, and the reason I think it's because Hatsume is not a redundant character. She has a purpose, but her purpose is very, very minimal, right? Focusing on focusing an entire chapter on a character that, in reality, very few people genuinely care about is, I think, not necessary. But focusing a chapter on one of the most prominent League of Villain members, I think, is important, right? Because outside, like, you have Shigiraki, obviously, you have Dabi, obviously, and then Toga is, like, considering how All for One and Shigiraki are, like, almost the same entity at this point, she's, like, arguably more dangerous than Dabi, and she's a villain that's like ranked 3 in terms of importance to the narrative, in my opinion. Right? She's clearly going to have some conflict with Uraraka, so she's going to be important to move her forward.
Narratively, like narrative importance wise,
I think Spinner. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people say that Spinner's like really cool to them, and that he's going to be like a pretty big benefactor of like the heteromorphs kind of like discrimination arc or whatever that they think Horikoshi is going on. I respect their opinion on that. I don't like Spinner in the slightest. I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's very. I just don't. I
Sorry
don't
to
know. I don't see
interrupt.
the
It's just
appeal of
like
him
I have
personally.
to like. I'm not necessarily like I'm not a spinner stan, right? I don't even think those exist.
So before I was talking about how I don't really like Spinner, I do see the potential of like an arc that focuses on like the discrimination that certain quirk users or certain quirk I guess havers deal with, right? I get that. I personally just think that Toga has been built up a little bit more. She's
Mhm.
generally more well liked, and I think she's going to be paralleled with a much more important character than Spinner is, because obviously you have the Deku Shigiraki parallel, you have the Todoroki Dabi parallel, right? And then you have the Toga like Uraraka parallel, maybe even with Hawks. I think it's going to be both.
Oh, I was yeah, I was gonna say with Hawks, right? Because like, there's no way. Like, I know Hawks wants to help them with Dabi, but like, bro, like he's a fire type. Just go do something else. It's okay.
No, and I do think she's going to confront. She's probably going to be forced to confront Twice's killer, being Hawks, right?
Mhm.
And I think Uraraka is going to step in because they've been paralleled since their like beginning, right? They both have this like sort of admiration of Deku, right? They have their little scrap early on in the series. Toga was able to realize the full potential of her quirk when she fully like realized it with Uraraka, right? She changed into or used her quirk or whatever. They have their little scramble in the middle of the war arc. So I just think everything's leading towards them having this conflict. And I think Hawks is going to be part of that. Or maybe the better way to put it, Uraraka is going to be part of that conflict. But I think Hawks and her are going to fight not Uraraka, Toga. Who would Spinner's conflict be with, right? Even
Yeah.
I think he can have a conflict. I don't know, honestly. He's probably gonna pair. Let's see, who's the guy that has like 6 arms or something? I can't remember his
Oh,
name.
wow. Yeah, I think that's. First of all, I think that's part of the problem. Second off, I think that's Shoji. I don't
Okay,
know.
let me see.
He's got a generic name.
Um, yeah, maybe my lack of My Hero knowledge is showing. But yeah, you were right, Shoji. I think
Oh,
he's
nice.
not built up very well personally, but I think that
Bro,
um,
I swear
mm,
they like Horikoshi is about to write another like fucking 5-page mini arc about like uh Shoji just so the fight with Spinner has like a little bit more character to it. And I don't mind that. It just I know I think I said this before last week that he's given me Kubo end of Thousand Year Blood War arc energy in that it feels like he just wants it to end.
mm,
So he's kind of rushing it out the door here. I would have wished he like fleshed out the Dark Deku arc more and had this
oh
be
man, don't get me started on, on
uh,
on how I wanted that arc to go. Listen, I was a huge advocate for this being like, because I already think he's a good main character. I think this could have elevated him to be like really great and like a character that I could be like, I could understand a discussion between him and Yuji in terms of like main character, like quality. But it just didn't.
this is like
It just
yeah.
was. It just didn't live up to what I wanted, which is whatever. Anyways, I think that unless he builds up Shoji, or maybe who knows, Spinner might not fight Shoji, but he has to build up whoever he is putting them against, or else it's going to be a less cool version of Stars and Stripe. A fight that I already think was low key kind of garbage, just because Stars and Stripe is a character that is introduced and within the span of 3 chapters and leaves within that same span. I
Yo,
yeah.
is speaking of Shigaraki for a second, sorry to interrupt. I just remembered when he was in that fucking cave thing, and All for One's initial like first body was like, "Oh, don't worry, he's healing up." Yada yada yada. Did you also have this thought? You're like, "Well, I guess the Stars and Stripes did fucking nothing."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's delaying these things, which is fine. I just don't feel like I feel like characters with regen are very hard to deal with if you don't just outright kill them. Like this whole delaying game where it's like, yeah, the consequences that they're dealing with are not very much. He's just gonna regen, right? He's probably gonna any quirk he got destroyed by Stars and Stripe isn't probably going to be that vital. I'm pretty sure a lot of them were just no name quirks anyways. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I'm already over my bitterness of the Stars and Stripes little mini arc. I think she was a jobber character that had a lot more potential. Who cares? Whatever. I just hope that all of these parallel conflicts are good, because if Horikoshi is going to go from like Deku versus Shigiraki, which I know is going to be the peak of this final arc, to Dabi versus Todoroki, which I also think is going to be pretty good. I think that's been built up very very organically and very well. And then takes us
Mhm.
to Toga versus Hawks and Uraraka, which I think is going to be good, not as good as the other two, just because the other two are just, I think, cooler general matchups. And then to Spinner versus whoever he fights, he better build them up properly, or else it's just going to be very, very, very boring. It's just going to be so lame when he switches, and I just hope it's not the case. I hope this whole war arc is just gonna be straight like bangers all around, right? And personally, I want to say this: I give Akutami the same benefit because I know that when I trust, especially Akutami, I trust when he builds something up, when he slows down, the impact of it popping off is just going to be excellent. That's why I'm saying I'm trusting Horikoshi with these character chapters, with these what you call filler chapters. This is the build up to when it pops off, it's going to be fire. That's my expectation. That's what I'm giving, like, yeah, you know, Horikoshi's letting his character simmer for a while, right? And then when the war arc comes, we're gonna have a lot of impact, because you can't just have your manga go all the time. I just don't think it's really
I
it's not gonna
know,
make much sense.
but my whole point is that Horikoshi's just been going for like a couple chapters at that pace, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like slow pace, like taking a breather, doing some very casual light world building is a-okay, but Horikoshi's like 6 chapters deep in this point, like of just like the preamble of the war arc, and I have a feeling we have another 6 chapters of preamble for the villain side of the war arc before it finally starts. I don't know, like, to me it just feels like a massive waste of time.
Personally, I'm all for not preamble. I'm all for build up. I think you can do build up poorly, which I think the past two chapters, no, not the past two, the chapters, not last chapter, but the chapters before that were examples of poor build up, right? I'm not justifying those because I think that's poor build up. This, if we got 6 chapters of this type of stuff where we go from villain to villain and we get some like very interesting um character deepening type stuff, I'd be completely satisfied, because when they pop off, it's going to be interesting. Gege does this pretty well, where I'm like narratively invested in what he's building up. Like back in the stretch of the manga where it was like 5 chapters back to back of just straight Culling Games explanation, everybody was complaining and whining
I'll,
about it. I was here for it because I am interested in what it is, and that's why
okay,
I'm going to be excited when this shit
but it's
pops
different.
off.
It's you can't even compare the Cullen Games explanation versus the War Arc explanation, because the War Arc explanation could have been boiled down to like 2 chapters max, because it was a matter of, okay, here's the effect Stars and Stripes had. Here's the time we have. And you know what? Actually, I'll give Horikoshi credit for this. I did like the whole traitor mini arc, because that was actually eventful,
Mm-hmm.
and it did contribute to the story. But like, the Cullen Games arc was super important for establishing new characters like God, what's her name?
Yuki.
Yes, Yuki.
Mm-hmm.
And uh Tengen, and like basically explaining why the hell the Culling Games is even happening, what the hell Kenjaku's been doing all of this for, why he bothered to seal Gojo, etc., etc.
I agree, but
And
yeah, good.
like it's such a big, like, okay, finding all that out, like finding out what the Culling Games are probably the Jujutsu Kaisen equivalent to finding out like what the One Piece is or something. Like it's such a major like plot development for the story. It's just so integral to the lore and the narrative that it's like it's not at the same level as this war arc. Because
Um,
the war arc is literally like them duking it out for one side to beat the other. You know what I mean? And My Hero Academia's conflict is a little less complicated.
I'll say it's less complicated in terms of like the logistics of it, but I think you can argue just as complicated in terms of like the emotional connections that are going to be either broken or built. Like the motivations. I think logistically, like yes, the Cooling Games is a much more complex thing to explain than big war villain versus hero, right? But I don't think that's all the war arc is. I think it's the culmination of like everything that the series has come to, and I think that that deserves enough build up because I feel like it's kind of a double edged sword because if you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? If Horikoshi just went straight from Villan arc, gave 2 chapters of build up, then takes us to the war, the payoff is gonna suck, and then people are gonna be like, oh, he should have built it up more, right? Now that he's building it up, I think some people are bored, right? And they're like, why isn't he just getting to the meat? But when it happens, when it pops off, I truly think that the work is going to be very similar in quality or enjoyment to how the previous little like war was, right? I think it's going to be just as exciting. And I don't know if you remember the time where like MHA was just going off with Deku versus Shigiraki and all that stuff. But that was a very fun time to be an MHA fan. So I think slowing down in order to prepare for it to pick back up is perfectly fine with me.
Okay, that is actually a fair argument. I just kind of I'm getting impatient. like I'll just be honest, I'm getting a little impatient.
Yeah, and that's
mostly because
that's fine. I think that's fair. Like it's not like a horrible thing to want it to be in the the thick of it, right? That's fine. I just personally understand. Okay, this is important, and I'm not going to complain about the story doing what a story needs to do. Like for me, it'd be like this, right? It's a little bit. I'm using an exaggeratory example just to highlight my point, right? So when you start a manga, characters have to be established, motivations, who they are, why they do what they do, things like that, right? I don't expect a new manga to be introduced and then boom, I'm seeing crazy fights, crazy villains or whatever. You need that build up, that the connection to the characters and to the world and to the stakes, because if you don't, you just have empty fights. You just have
God of High School.
Yeah,
the anime.
for sure, right? Yeah, exactly. You just have cool spectacle, but guess what? I'm nobody's talking.
I don't know who any of you. Yeah. I don't know who any of you are.
Yeah, I don't care. Like when you look at like top fights, right? Let's use Jujutsu Kaisen for example, right? Yuji versus Grasshopper is a very visually pleasing fight. It's dope, right? Horikoshi, I mean not Horikoshi. I keep talking about My Hero, getting confused. Giga did his thing, right? To me, visually, that's a super cool, compact fight. That is not top 10, top 20 fights in JJK because it just lacks the emotional aspect. And obviously that's intentional. Not every fight has to be this Yuji versus Mahito level battle. But that's why the reason these Yuji versus Mahito hit so hard. A Yuji versus Choso, Toji versus Gojo, Toji coming back versus Dagon. All those fights hit so hard because they're built up properly. And I think the same thing is going to apply to My Hero. But speaking about JJK so much kind of has me wanting to talk about this JJK chapter.
Yeah. And speaking of JJK, fights that are, impactful.
This chapter was crazy. Oh, man.
It was. Oh, my God.
It was so dope.
Dude, literally, the first thought I had was, I can't wait to talk to BR about this.
This was dope.
Dude, oh, my God. Where do we even start? Dude, Megumi is such a cerebral fighter that you're going to hate me for saying this. He will never be able to use Black Flash, dude. Ever.
I disagree. I don't think he'll need to. I don't think he needs to, but I feel like Black Flash is just about focus. I just think if he's focused in on his battle, you know what? I can see why you would think that because the focus that Yuji displays at least almost turns off his brain.
Yeah. It's purely from a I have to defeat this thing in front of me with my own 2 hands kind of situation. And with Megumi, it's okay, I need to maintain my domain. I have to make sure all the math is right. I have to make sure the mass and the damage he's taken is accounted for, and I have to make sure that my bluff works. There's so many different balls in the air that he has going on at once that there is no way he can just turn his brain off and focus for long enough and deep enough to achieve Black Flash.
I can see that.
But I don't even really think he needs it. This isn't necessarily me saying it's Megumi as a character needs Black Flash, because he definitely doesn't, right? He's doing just fine without it. But I do definitely think he's not a candidate for it.
Okay, that's fair. I can see that. What grade would you say Reggie is sorcerer-wise? I'm curious.
Grade 1.
Grade 1, okay. So I'll ask you this. Do you think he's fodder compared to Higiruma? how do you think they would? Because I'm curious because I've seen a lot of different takes on that, and I'm just curious, like,
Okay.
before I like spaz out about like why Megumi was so
No,
freaking cool.
I get it. You want the opinion of the biggest JJK fan you know.
I know
And
myself, but continue.
sure. I'll do that for the sake of moving this conversation along. My take is that Higiruma would wash him because Higuruma's fighting style is, okay, let's start fighting, domain expansion.
Okay.
Like, that's Higuruma's, like, move,
Mhm.
right? And Higuruma's domain... Okay, let me rephrase. Higuruma's domain on, specifically Reggie, it's almost a guaranteed 10 out of 10 that Higuruma wins, because Reggie is, like... He's almost always going to be guilty of whatever he's on trial for, right?
Mhm.
But he also has like a massive hard-on for Jujutsu sorcerers or con artists, so his first instinct is going to be to lie
Mhm.
of a thing he's definitely guilty of. And if he's getting confiscated, he is not a good hand-to-hand fighter. Sorry, he's not at the level of Higuruma, right?
Mhm.
And he's definitely no Yuji.
For sure.
So he's... like, he is getting so washed, and in the event he ever figures out that you could do a retrial and tries to and like fails again, it's a wash. It's even more of a wrap.
For sure. So, do you think simple domain is not a factor in this instance?
No, because the simple domain thing for it doesn't really apply to a domain like Higuruma's, because it's not attacking you, right? Like, the technique is judging you, right? Higuruma is the one doing the attacking. He just happens to get a weapon based off the result of the domain, right? So you're not... Simple domain wouldn't do anything in that situation because there's no technique attacking you.
Okay. Fair. Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I guess if you say like domain, no cursed energy, yeah, he loses. In the
What
event
about you?
that he, let's say, I think that I don't know. I feel like he's in the same boat as Megumi, where he's not getting caught up by Higuruma's like thing, like because Yuji's just we already know he's just too earnest for uh like
Are you talking about physically,
no.
mentally,
I
or
mean
like...
mentally he's too earnest to like be good at those type of mind games, right? Um,
Ah,
I personally think Reggie and Megumi are much more intelligent and would because if Yuji just didn't tell the truth, he would have been fine and be able to keep fighting, right? And that's what Higiruma just says. Yeah, like I don't have enough evidence to say you're guilty of this. At least in this specific instance, right? Therefore, not guilty. Um,
okay. So I guess I wouldn't say it's like an easy wash for Higuruma, right? Like, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm just saying it really will depend on the domain expansion process, because Reggie is like carried by his technique.
I agree.
Let's
Most
yeah,
most
like
sorcerers are,
he's...
yeah.
Yeah, but like him especially, it's like, ooh, if you can get him to stop using his techniques. I'm not saying he's fish in a barrel, but like,
Yeah, no, I
come on.
agree. What do
Yeah.
you Okay, so let's go to the hypothetical real quick and then we'll get into the chapter. How do you
All
think
right.
he fares like he accurately is able to like not get judged, right? The domain
Okay.
closes and then they're just fighting like straight up.
So before I answer that, I'm curious, are you like team Higuruma or team Reggie for this matchup generally?
Probably I don't know. It's kind of tough because Reggie is probably I don't know. It's to me it's close enough to where you can have a pretty good debate on it. It really depends on what your view of Megumi and Yuji are, honestly. Like, do you think Megumi, even with cursed energy, is weaker than Yuji with no cursed energy? Maybe. Not sure.
Wow, that's something I haven't considered before. Megumi is not weak physically, right?
Yeah.
It just, obviously he has to reinforce the hell out of his body to like do Jujutsu sorcerer shit.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's like
although
how
we've seen that
go ahead.
we've seen that have varying effects though, right? Because I think there's 3 levels to it, and I don't know where to place. Sorry, 2 levels to it, and I don't know where to put Megumi. You have like Ghetto level, where he was like still like a beast hand to hand,
Mhm.
up close in close quarters combat. But at the same time, his opponent was like an old man.
For sure, yeah.
The other example is a monster like Yuta, right?
Yeah.
Who's just like,
It's so much cursed
who
energy,
has
it
so
doesn't
much...
matter.
Yeah, and obviously when he enhances his body, he becomes like Yuji, right?
Mhm.
So what I would say is that he's closer to Geto in that when Yuta, who is, as we've established, like a literal monster when it comes to cursed energy, like amount,
Mhm.
when he like fully blasts his body, he becomes physically on par with Yuji using cursed energy enhancements, right?
Mhm.
So we can say that that's like the peak of enhancing your body physically, right? It's Yuji and Yuta.
Mhm.
Now, with cursed energy enhancement, I don't think Megumi reaches either of those levels.
I agree.
So I would say he's probably at this stage in time physically weaker than Geto, purely because Geto is just like he was like what, it's like 6'2" and like built like his base human form was still like comparatively stronger to Megumi, who's like what, 5'6" and like 90 pounds soaking wet.
Sure.
Yeah. Like there's just more for Megumi to like have to enhance to get at that level, to Yuji's level. Sorry.
Sure. I agree. Like both of them being like cursed energy enhanced, Yuji wins. My question is, do you think base Yuji, right, is going to, because we've seen Yuji in a similar situation where he's getting like crushed by this huge weight that Higiruma was throwing with his hammer. How do you think Yuji with no cursed energy fares in this lifting contest that Megumi was in? Like,
Oh,
can he hold the two
okay.
now no cursed energy? Can he hold the 2.4 tons on his back easier than Megumi can, basically?
I would kill to know how heavy that hammer was that Higuruma hit him with.
I would as well.
Um,
It's a very
because like,
yeah,
okay, it has to be more than 300 pounds, right? Like, I think, or even 500 for it to be like, uh, genuinely trouble for Yuji, right?
mhm,
Because if we're saying Yuji physically is like at least above Olympic athlete level, then they max out at what, 1,100 pounds.
for sure. But I think the thing is Higuruma's like slamming it onto him as hard as he can, right?
Yeah, that too. So I want to give Yuji like 3,000 pounds, and I'm being generous there,
Mhm.
of that hammer. So I don't know what to convert. I don't know how many pounds are in a ton.
So
Pounds in
it's
a ton.
2,000 pounds per ton.
Oh shit. Okay, so if I'm giving him 3,000,
Yeah,
it's gonna be 1.5 tons.
yeah. So like a little more than half of what Megumi was holding. If we're obviously
Basically.
we're roughing it with the math here.
Yeah,
Um,
like we're going off a lot of assumptions here.
for sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
So yeah,
That's just my question. I think either way, it's an interesting fight, assuming Higuruma doesn't just take away his curse technique, which I agree ends the fight. But anyways, um, this fight was dope.
but there is, I did have a beef with like, I think one of your tweets that was like current Megami versus current Yuji.
Mhm.
First of all, you made that tweet before this last chapter,
Sure.
the just dropped.
Hmm.
So we'll get to that in a second. It did kind of like help inform my opinion that Yuji still wins, but I did kind of think about it, and I was like, if this fight doesn't go to show just how much of an absolute monster Yuji is, like as a combatant, I don't know what will, because I have this feeling, right? Yuji, if it was Yuji in Megumi's situation, like he wouldn't need to go to the gymnasium, right? Even against all of them, it like eventually, right? At some point, Reggie would like he'd be throwing trucks at him, he'd be throwing like everything at him, and obviously Yuji's gonna be able to hold up to a fair amount more punishment than Megumi
Hmm.
is able to. So I personally think that he would have had an easier time against like all of Reggie's crew, including Reggie. Not saying it would have been like easy. I'm just saying he would have had an easier time than Megumi.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like I honestly, it's kind of hard to think about because Reggie is just going to lead Yuji by his nose the entire fight, right? Yuji's just going to be following whatever Reggie wants him to follow. Um, it goes similar to obviously he has the physical advantage. I, um, obviously to a lesser degree because Megumi won here, but I think it goes similar to like a Yuji versus Megumi fight where Yuji is clearly physically dominant, but he has such a small arsenal compared to his opponent, and is so much dumber. At least compared to
So when you consider that durability as a major factor in the fight, you have to consider that Yuji is also way more durable and he can take way more punishment than Megumi ever could. Like after his fight with Mahito, right? Like like an evolved Mahito fight too,
Mhm.
right? He was still able to take a full, I think it was a maximum Uzumaki or like a very big attack from Geto and still survive. Like Megumi, I don't feel is in the ballpark of taking that much punishment.
I
So
mean, Kenjaku like used a random curse on Yuji, and then Yuji like fell through the ground or whatever. But I do agree with
no, I'm talking about the one where he was like all cut up and
yeah,
like
that's what
he did the yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. Yuji like he gets hit with here, I'll show you real quick. He just gets hit with these like, it's not like a named attack even. Uzumaki Kusakabe ends up blocking. But Jaku just shoots like he's like squid or whatever at him or something. Yuji falls and then he's all bloodied up or whatever. I'm not saying it's not a good.
Oh.
He's strong, obviously. No one's denying that, but it's just not.
Yeah, I know, but it's just how do I like? It's still Geto, right? And like okay, would you say Reggie can take on Geto or sorry, Kenjaku? Even Geto, dude. Yeah.
No, he's not taking on Kenjaku, but Yuji isn't taking on Kenjaku here either.
Yeah, no, I meant more like damage wise. Like, can he take on the damage?
Reggie is surviving this for sure. I'll say that. This attack,
okay.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Okay, hold on. To what degree of like survivability?
Like,
are you giving him standing up?
He's fighting after this. Yeah, I think so.
Dude, I think you're buffing him.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Yuji.
Okay.
I think Yuji is because here's the thing. Yuji can get up and fight after this too. It's not like Yuji can't. Yuji does get up and fights after this, right?
Okay. Different way to say it. Same. Okay. Take the same fight with Reggie and Megumi, like literally bar for bar, like panel to panel, except exchange Reggie for Megumi, right? For Yuji, right?
Okay.
There is absolutely no universe in which the amount of punishment that Megumi dealt to Reggie translates to the same level of punishment to Yuji.
I agree. I just don't.
Right.
I think the fight goes on in a completely different manner though. Because
with Reggie and Yuji,
I thought you said with Megumi and Yuji.
Okay, yeah.
If it's Megumi and Yuji, I don't think the fight goes down nearly the same because Megumi is having like this mental battle, an arsenal battle with him. He's not having that with Yuji, right? It's just the question. The question is, can Megumi survive long enough to implement plans that will work against Yuji? Right? That it all depends on that because if you think that's fine.
The real the question is literally, how do I keep this guy as far away from me as possible at any given moment? Because the second Yuji closes the distance, like Megumi's not surviving that. He's not living to tell the tale.
I don't know. I feel like you're underestimating Megumi's stats just because Yuji's very strong, which I don't disagree that there's a disparity. Is he getting
I'm saying okay.
Is he getting blitzed? No.
Okay. What do you say is the gap between Yuji with cursed energy and Maki right now? Post-awakening.
Maki shits on Yuji. Like, she speed blitzes and slams him.
I know. Like, if you were to give it, like, a number or, like, a character as, like, to measure the difference.
Sure.
Like just yeah.
So, Yuji is currently a 1, Maki's a 10.
Get out.
In physical,
I'd say it's a
1 and a 10. Yuji,
1 to 5.
Yuji and Maki are like almost nowhere near each other in terms of like stat. Like Yuji would get embarrassed to a worse degree than he did against Yuta. And I'm not saying Maki's stronger than Yuta, but Yuta just didn't perform at his max, so that's whatever. Yuji's getting, and this is pretty similar to my take on like Maki versus Toto, which I was tweeting about a while ago. But Yuji gets in.
We gotta get in on all these versus battles.
Sure.
We're not gonna get to the top 10s this episode.
Yeah, for sure. Yuji gets embarrassed by Maki very badly. Like, it's not even a competition.
Dude, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I think you're underestimating Yuji. Like, I'd say 1 to 5, not 1 to 10.
So I'll ask this question first, right? Do you think Yuji is surviving Maki like slashing at his head the same way she did against Ogi?
I don't see it in that direction. I see it more of a, can Yuji do the same Zen and Clan slaughter as Maki?
He's not. He's getting folded by Naoya very badly. Very badly.
Where would...
Naoya... Okay. Naoya's folding him too. Very badly.
Okay, hold on. You don't... Is Naoya faster than Maki? Yes or no?
No.
No, the answer is yes.
No.
He is physically faster than Maki.
No, he's
It
not.
just she can just perceive his movements
If
at
it
this
was
point.
just perceived, she wouldn't be able to block several of his attacks back
No,
to
bro.
back.
No. Dude, this is a Superman Flash situation.
What?
Superman can comprehend and see the Flash's movements, and he's obviously able to move at a similar speed range, so he's able to like fight. He has to fight more smartly, sure, but fundamentally he makes up for it because the Flash only has his speed, right? So he can't even physically harm Superman. So it's like, sure, he has the advantage in speed, but obviously in every other category, like he
So
washes
let me
the
put it. Let
Flash.
me put it like
So
this.
I think it's similar with Maki and Naoya, where Maki is slower than him,
Okay, let me
but
ask you
she
this.
outclasses him in every other
Let me
sense.
ask you
Go.
this question: if Maki could land a punch on Naoya moving at top speed, would you say that they're at least even, if not Maki being faster?
I'd say they're in the same ballpark. Like, same with like
Well,
Flash and
so let
Superman
me ask you
here.
this question: how is Naoya moving at top speed and then getting punched in the face not make them at least equal? Because listen,
I
if you want to say Maki's not faster, sure. But Naoya is stated right when fighting Maki to be
bro.
moving at top speed. Maki turns around, has a little bit of a dialogue with him, then body slams him into the ground. I don't see how you don't think they're
Okay,
at least
okay.
equal.
Two things. One, it's established that people who use the 24-second curse technique aren't allowed to change their movements while they're in motion.
Tiger.
So it doesn't matter that she caught him there because like he physically couldn't stop the movement
Yeah, I know,
if he
but
wanted to.
okay, I don't think you're understanding, right? If someone, all right, he couldn't change his movement, I agree, but Maki has to be able to, while he's moving towards her at top speed, turn around, right? Because he can't just, if she just knew she was behind, or knew he was behind her, it wouldn't do anything, right? She had to be
Okay,
able to
okay, okay,
physically move at a relative
okay,
speed and then hit him, right? It'd be like
okay.
this. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll put it to you this way: Who is faster, Bruce Lee or Usain Bolt?
Uh, it, did-
See what I mean? It's like a different classification of speed. Combat speed is not travel
Sure,
speed,
but
and I
there's
think
feats of,
like
of
yeah.
Maki reacting to Naoya's combat speed, where she's blocking several of his attacks back to back.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, she probably equates to him in combat speed, but in like raw speed feats,
Sure, yeah, sure.
she's not at his level.
Travel speed. Sure, I don't really care, but travel speed is not relevant in this fight. I don't think.
No, because that's more or less the way Naoya fights, because he has to get some distance first.
Well,
Right, he's not there like duking it out with you because he obviously can't plan your moves, and once he's like fighting you, like say close quarters, he can't change his movements, so it's easier to block him than it is for him to block you.
Naoya's combat speed and travel speed do equate to each other because of his technique, right? He's a special case. Most people's don't, but Naoya's 24 frames technique and Naobito's make their combat speed and travel speed almost the same, right? Because like you said, when they're combating, they're running around, blitzing around the battlefield, right? So like,
No, but Maki wasn't running around him, right?
I
She was
agree.
stationary. She was waiting to catch
I
him.
agree. I'm saying that's fine. But what I'm saying is Naoya's travel. Okay, so let's say Naoya's travel speed is a 10, right? His combat speed
Hmm.
is also a 10, right? Because they equate to each other due to his technique. What I'm saying is Maki's combat speed has to at least be a 10 because she's relative to that, right? Do you agree with that?
I agree with like combat speed,
Okay,
yes.
sure. I'm just saying Yuji's combat speed in this scenario is a 1. Obviously, he's one of the fastest characters in the verse in terms of physicals, right? I'm just saying Maki and Naoya and like Toji are far above that. And the reason I say that is because when Toji has this small encounter with Yuji, right? He pulls up, he blitzes Yuji and Choso, right? They don't even realize he disappeared from them for a second. He smacks them in the face. Then, while they're in the middle of throwing their attacks, he like teleports across the road. Right now, obviously, he's not actually teleporting, but to them, it looks like he's teleporting across the road. Right?
Hmm.
He can't even now. Yuji thinks something's weird, but he can't tell that he's moving at his top speed. And then to make it worse, Naoya implies that he can go faster by saying, "Shall I try upping my speed?" The fact that Naoya was
Okay.
in speed wise bullying Yuji and Choso simultaneously while holding back, and Maki obviously handles a top speed Naoya, leads me to believe Yuji's going to be moving in slow motion to Maki.
Okay. But also, you have to keep in mind, this was Yuji fresh off his initial, like, Shibuya fight, right? He was still healing. Chozo said as much himself,
Maki,
right? He's still,
sure,
like,
that's fair, but Maki's still injured. She's bleeding out, like now, or not now yet, but she even says like I'm losing blood from her fight with Ogi. So if you want to say the damage argument, they're both damaged. damage Maki does
Sure, but
better.
I don't know. I would say, but like Maki's buff is just so fresh, you know. I'd say that's like a second
Her
wind.
buff is fresh, but Choso mentions that Yuji's got a buff since Shibuya as well. His control with cursed energy is much better. So they both get buffed, but are nerfed in different aspects. So I mean, they're almost 1-to-1 in terms of how they come against Naoya, right?
Yeah, but okay, I'm not saying I didn't even bring this up to say that Yuji can beat Maki. I firmly believe he can't. From a comparative stance, Yuji to Maki is what I just wasn't prepared for you to say it's like 10. That's so insane. Okay.
It's not even close for
whatever.
me.
I'm just gonna try to make the original point with that in mind, just to move this along. If it was, let's say, like the difference between Yuji and Maki, combat wise, was, and I mean combat to encompass physically, like strength, durability, speed, etc., including combat and travel, was like, somebody like 5 Miwas, for example, right?
Okay.
like that, like I'd measure it like that. I would say that the gap between Maki and Megumi would be like 30, to use your scale.
Sure. That's fair.
So comparatively, like again, using the same scale, that's still like a 1 to 20 between Yuji and Megumi, physically speaking.
I disagree that the gap between Yuji and Megumi is larger than the gap between Maki and Yuji.
Really?
I think you have a much easier time arguing that Megumi is closer in the same, like, now I like the same way you think Maki beats Yuji. I think that if you're just having them get in a boxing ring and then just duke it out, Yuji's winning, right? But I just think that Megumi is not like as at a disadvantage in this fight as Yuji would be against Maki. I also think
no, the whole point I'm trying to make is that at a long distance or even medium range, I'd say it's like 50-50, right? But the second it's a close encounters fight, like it's a brawl, dude, like Megumi is not going to be able to keep up. He's just out of his depth.
I agree.
With somebody at Yuji's level.
I agree on the second part. What if they get close, right? And Megumi for some reason has to rely on his physicals and not Shikigami, he loses 10 out of 10 times. I just think that if it's a longer mid-range, Yuji is at a similar disadvantage to Megumi is in close range. They just don't, like, the same way Megumi does not have a way to combat Yuji's physicals, Yuji does not have a way to combat his Shikigami at long range. He can't do anything because if he attacks them, Megumi, in a way that's lethal, he can literally just activate and deactivate them continuously, which he does a lot, especially in this recent fight.
But, like, you know how he fought Reggie using, like, a war of attrition, more or less? He wouldn't be able to fight like that with Yuji because Yuji just has, like, far more durability than Reggie.
But I don't think he needs that strategy.
I think he does, because at a certain point, let's say he uses his domain expansion to fight Yuji right off the rip, like he did, not right off the rip, but, like, in the same way he did against Reggie. In that, like, it's bombarding him with all of these other shadows, the Shikigami, and the weight from, like, Max Elephant being dropped on him, all of that shit, right? Yuji's femur, or not femur, is it like his leg wouldn't break? Yuji is faster than all of Megumi's Shikigami except for Maharaga, right? Like, he just physically outclasses them too, and they're not going to be able to do the same amount of damage on him as they would, like, somebody like Reggie, right? Like, at the very end, with Divine Dog ripping off, like, Reggie's shoulder and his ear, right? I do not see a situation where Divine Dog can harm Yuji's body in the same way, even if he was like let's say 20 minutes deep into the fight.
Even if you say, right, that he's not, like, ripping off his shoulder, Divine Dog is piercing Yuji anytime it attacks him the same way it attacks Reggie, I think.
Yeah, but it's not going to be as fatal. And also, if that's the case, right, like, Divine Dog is probably up there in terms of, like, striking power out of all of Megumi's Shinigami, right? Shikigami. So with that in mind, if he was to say, I don't know, try to like punch Divine Dog disappears into the domain again, because, like, Megumi obviously doesn't want the dog to, like, get clobbered because he wants to use him later.
Sure.
Like, he's surviving Nue's paralyzing bolts. He's surviving bunny escape.
Sure.
Like, he is definitely going to survive Megumi's shadow clones. Like, probably, like, they're almost going to be nothing to him, right? Megumi's shadow clones are, I don't know if they're as strong as him physically or, like, they're slightly weaker, but even if they were, like, the same level of strength as Megumi, he would not be able to, like, fundamentally damage Yuji with his own strength, like, physically speaking. That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
I definitely don't think he would no-selling attacks from like several Megumis. I don't know about that.
Dude, are you kidding me? Of course he can.
Why?
Like, because Megumi's just not physical. Like, he doesn't have enough power in his strikes to hurt somebody like with Yuji's body.
Okay, sure. Right. that's whatever. Let's say I agree. Megumi just like can't do like he just does no. It's just like a little kid hating an adult or whatever, right? I think
Right?
that he is not put in a war of attrition against Yuji because Yuji just is going to now. You can argue it either way, right? If you want to say Yuji possibly
Hmm.
gets close, I'm sick because I'm obviously arguing in favor of Megumi, right? And I'm arguing that his
Right?
strategy is like more important. Yuji or Megumi's never put in a position where he is damaged because here's my argument, right? He
Right?
literally pulls out Nue. No, because if are we saying like they know, I don't know, for some reason they have to fight against each other, but they're aware of their other abilities, or is there just like a complete unawareness?
Yeah, no, like this is like they know about each other's
Sure.
abilities.
Megumi's, I think, using Nue and making the distance as large as he can while still fighting
But
him.
like it won't have an effect on Yuji, and the reason I know that is because it barely had an effect on Kamo. How do you say it?
No, no,
Kamo?
no. I'm not saying he uses Nue to attack. I'm saying he uses Nue to get distance. Um,
Oh, like he's on Nue and
Yeah,
he's
like
like okay, I see
he
what you mean.
grabs Nue's leg or whatever and just dips, right? Now I'm not saying it's like
Hmm.
super far, but I'm just saying he gains distance because Nue, regardless if you think Yuji's faster, he just can't fly, right? So
Yeah.
it's just, he has the mobility advantage at least in the air, right? And then Megumi can
Right?
spam his Shikigami because I'm pretty sure he says like in one of these recent chapters, he's completely fine with activating and deactivating Shikigami consistently. Um like without
Yeah,
issue.
but if this is a domain, wait, is he doing this in domain or outside of domain?
Well, I'm saying I don't think he starts off the fight with Domain. I think it's like we're saying like I'm trying to put him in as similar situations as like this latest fight as possible. So they're just starting out in like I don't know some street or whatever. Um, that's basically what I'm saying.
Well, okay, Megumi's gonna have way more trouble, because he has to keep Nui activated at all times, basically, in this fight with Yuji, right? Because Yuji, like, he is fast enough for Megumi to like, consistently need to make sure that distance doesn't get closed, right? So, he would need to, like, work this very fine balance and use, like, a speed feat that I don't think Megumi is, like, super capable of. Like, I think he is, barely, but like if he breaks his concentration for even like a second, it all kind of falls apart. So it's like a gentle dance where he constantly needs to make sure he's at a reasonable enough like distance from Yuji at all times, right?
Hmm.
So it's a combination of okay, to use like two or three other of these Shikigami without completely burning myself out of cursed energy. I need to like attack Nue if he's getting too close, attack, and he's kind of fighting like that
Hmm.
until like I don't know, Yuji tires by some miracle
Sure,
before he runs out of cursed energy.
sure. So I think that's I think if your argument is I think my argument basically relatively similar to that with awareness of Yuji's physicals, he's not dumb enough to like fight him in that fight. I think because the strategy completely changes. I think he's using his divine dogs a lot more. I don't think Yuji's not one-shotting his divine dogs. His divine dogs are cutting Yuji if they attack him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So excuse me, his divine dog's cutting him if he attacks him. If he throws in Max Elephant like to like make Yuji back away or get scared because Yuji's not like immune to feints and things like that, right? Choso
Right.
showed that. I just think he's layering on the damage till he's like, okay, you know what? Fine, I'll take you to the gymnasium, domain expansion, and if he does do the Max Elephant thing, Yuji doesn't have to be crushed. Yuji can hold it and still like just be straining if you want with no real injuries. He's then just getting layered on by other domain attacks.
Okay. Before we go on, I'm just gonna say, Doofy, I am so sorry. We're gonna do the top 10 episode next week. This is too important to like let go. Okay. Like, are you okay
Yeah,
with that?
that's cool.
Here is where I think we agree fundamentally. Just to recap, Megumi loses the fight if it's close quarters.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Yuji is more durable than Megumi,
Yep.
and Megumi is definitely a smarter fighter than Yuji.
Yep.
However, my argument is that Yuji is not necessarily like in the same way that you don't think the gap between them physically is like the same between Yuji and Maki.
Hmm.
I don't think the intelligence difference is like the same between I don't know him and like Tengen. I don't know who you'd consider the
Sure,
smartest
sure.
character in
I
JJK. It's
honestly
like not
think
Megumi. Yeah.
I think Megumi, you can make an argument for him being like strategically one of the best in the verse. maybe that's
Definitely.
I don't know if that's, and I don't think Yuji's stupid, right? But Yuji's like,
right, like he figured out Higuruma's technique, and Higuruma even said like this was like a rare thing that people figure out, like the retrial aspect of his technique.
for sure, yeah.
And definitely as he gets more and more battle experience, he has elevated. I think current Yuji can definitely like wash not Hanami one-on-one now.
Washing
If he was
Hanami.
to redo that fight.
Let me think. That's an interesting washing Hanami one-on-one, maybe?
Because keep in mind,
I don't
he
know.
just got like a fucking speed run, like crash course lesson in what Black Flash was, the core cursed energy thing, maybe 15 minutes before he actually fought Hanami, right?
Sure.
And he was still able to perform that well with Toto.
No,
And like
Hanami,
neither of them,
okay, continue. My fault.
but like sorry, but like neither of them, Toto or Yuji were in a position where they were like weakened, right? Like they were going to end that fight. Like despite how the domain expansion would have worked, personally, in my opinion, Toto has a simple domain. They would have been fine. Like had Hanami used
Toto would have been fine. I don't think Yuji would have been fine.
I think he would have extended it. But my whole point, right?
Think he can extend it past
is
himself?
That sure, I think Toto is a talented enough sorcerer. But like the point I'm trying to make is there is the problem was never Yuji's ability to hurt Hanami, right? He was always able to do that, and I think eventually had the fight continued. And by the way, Hanami was like, or they were the one that was definitely on the back foot in that fight near the end. Like,
I agree.
It was definitely getting exercised.
Sure. It depends on how potent you think the domain expansion would have been. If you think that Yuji can survive whatever's, or like, Toto and Yuji are able to survive like an enhanced technique Hanami. Because sure, the instant hit thing is not going to work, but Hanami's just going to be stronger. His technique's instant.
No, but remember, Hanami said none of the power goes back to him. I'm just gonna use all of them.
That was a different. I'm pretty sure that's when he gathers like his attack in his like little flower thing, right?
Yeah, no, but that's how he activates the domain.
Is it?
Yeah, that like he was literally about to say domain expansion, and then like Gojo breaking the barrier happened when he was saying the word expansion.
Oh, okay.
So like that's yeah. So like that was the whole thing with Hanami's domain expansion. But I'm talking like physically, like current Yuji can definitely smoke Hanami. Like one-on-one. And I'll even go a step further. I still think Megumi couldn't do it.
I disagree. I think
there is no way he can do it.
Why?
because Hanami, at the end of the day, right? He can compete with Hanami's like versatility in the techniques. Like he can go like he can match every single like weird technique Hanami has with his own, right? Like in the same way he did with Reggie. But when it comes to like close quarters, the gap is, I wouldn't say between like Yuji and Megumi, but I would definitely say Megumi is like still fundamentally outclassed. Like strength wise.
I think
with Hanami, he couldn't even penetrate his hide with the black sword, dude.
Sure, I agree, but I think Megumi now does better, or has better physical stats than the Yuji that fights in that Hanami fight.
You're insane, dude.
Why?
I'm sorry.
Okay. So follow my line of thinking for a second, then. All right.
Okay.
So you agree that Black Flash makes you like a stronger fighter, right? Like it kind of like evolved
in a sense of like understanding cursed energy, being able to use Black Flash, or literally the strength.
And understanding cursed energy gives you better refinement in like usage, I think. And would you say that like leads to better stats? Not in the sense that you're physically stronger, but you're essentially stronger and faster because you amplify yourself better, right?
Sure. Okay.
So basically, Yuji after the Hanami fight should be at least, even if we don't say stronger, he should at least scale to the same stats, right? We agree.
Okay.
Do you remember the Awasaka fight?
Remind me.
Awasaka is the one who had the inverse curse technique where Yuji and Megumi were working together.
Yes.
Right. Now, there's two ways you can argue it. Some people are skeptical of the first way, but I'll use that first, right? So the first one is Megumi and Yuji are able to sync up the speed of their attacks, right? Because Megumi says it's necessary for them to mix in light and heavy attacks in order to keep Awasaka off his game, right? Even if you don't think Megumi's relative to Yuji based off that, that's fine. In this fight, right, Yuji gets tagged once, right, by his knife. Megumi gets attacked a similar amount to Yuji, right? In fact, he's a little bit more aggressive initially, but he does not get tagged a single time in this fight and blocks every attack, whereas Yuji does get hit. In fact, I'll show you the instance real quick because I think it's important, because it's the same attack like Awasaka attacks both of them, right? And Megumi, it's like portrayed that they both react at the same time. Megumi's the one who's able to like dodge it.
I remember this argument, dude. We had like a whole tiff about the speed feat.
Sure. So what do you think about it?
Do you remember?
Yeah. I have this argument a lot with people, so I might
Yeah.
I may be thinking of different. But
Right.
what did you think of the argument then?
I said, it's cool that he can perceive it. It doesn't mean that he could deal with it.
Well, Well, I'll just show you. He dodges Awasaka's attack that Yuji gets tagged by.
Right? Okay. How do I say this? I still put Yuji at like weakened. Maybe he was just slower, but like his cursed energy control is better. So like I'm willing to like say he has that situation right now.
Why is he slower now than in the Hanami fight?
No. Remember, this was right after Shibuya, but before Yuta.
Oh no,
Wait,
I'm not talking.
fuck,
Wait,
no.
Awasaka is
When
in the
was
beginning
this?
of Shibuya.
Shibuya, yeah.
So,
Oh my god. So like
it's not.
he doesn't even have that buff yet.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. That's why I'm saying he performs just as because you were saying that Yuji doesn't have any trouble like scaling to Hanami physically, and I'm saying I agree, but I'm just saying Megumi doesn't have the trouble either.
Okay, but he was still unable to damage Hanami in their fight, right? Like curse energy wise, I'm sure he got like way more of a buff than Yuji did, because like obviously his techniques require more curse energy than Yuji. But at the same time, despite him getting a cursed energy buff, his physical feats. Did you just send me something?
I was just sending you the panels just in case you cared to see them. Anyways, you can continue.
Yeah, but the whole point is that it's not like. First of all, from this perspective, Yuji does look like he still grasps it, but he was just kind of lagging behind for a second.
I agree. I'm not saying like Megumi's like blitzing Yuji. I'm just saying the lowest you can put Megumi here is that he scales to this Yuji in speed, right? And all I'm saying is that Hanami and Yuji were relative in physical combat speed, right? And all I'm saying is Yuji or Megumi should basically be in the same spot. So Hanami's not faster than Megumi here. They'd be able to like dodge each other or whatever to the point where it's like, whatever, right? If you want to go in the physical argument, that's fine.
No, because here's the thing. I actually do think that Hanami was like at the time of their fight, still just barely physically stronger and definitely way more durable than Yuji was at that point in time of Yuji's development.
And he's also stronger.
Yeah.
I agree. But I'm talking. I want to address it like kind of like stat by stat, if you will, because
so it goes into it. So where I come from with this argument is that this was like still Yuji at his most green.
Okay.
And even still, he was able to contend with Nanami way more than Megumi initially was when he and Maki did the initial attack, right?
I agree.
So after that happened, they both got buffs through like experience, through training, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Yuji closed the distance on his not closed the distance, but like he definitely elevated his physical feats far more than Megumi did.
I did.
So, and that's like the main thing to focus on in a fight like this. Like with Hanami, like your physical feats, as you know, like, and again, I will give credit to Megumi. He will definitely be able to contend. Like his techniques will be able to contend with Hanami's techniques. I'm speaking strictly the physical feats.
Sure.
He still doesn't hold a candle to Nanami.
So I have a question for you. How can you say Yuji had a bigger increase when at the start Yuji is faster? So I want to, because I don't think Megumi necessarily has like as high of AP as Yuji or whatever, but I can make an argument for that as well, right? So do you agree that Megumi got a bigger speed boost from the Hanami arc to the beginning of Shibuya?
But just for the sake of argument, let's assume he does, right?
Sure.
Why would that matter? Like the speed feat in a fight against somebody like Hanami is arguably like the third most important.
Speed is important because if Megumi wasn't fast enough, then he would just get outscaled by Hanami, and Hanami would just be able to block or dodge everything.
But he's not significantly faster.
That's fine. I think that's not my argument. I'm not trying to make him significantly faster than Hanami. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm saying, like, even if he's in the same, like, even if he's tied with Hanami, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hanami is still so much stronger than him physically that, like, it might as well, like, the speed might as well have not matter in the discussion.
What like strength feats make you think that he's like so much stronger than Megumi that like the speed is irrelevant?
I don't know if you consider strength and durability to be more closer in similarity, but the fact that he was able to take, 4 or 5 black flashes on top of, like, the sheer amount of, like, damage and ass-kicking he was taking from the tag team, and still was able to, like, be conscious.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, he did survive Hollow Purple.
Okay. I mean, he survived it because it didn't hit him head on, but sure.
Yeah, it still evaporated half his body, but he still took a full beatdown from Yuji and Todo, and, like, a hit from Playful Cloud right before that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Agree.
Like, Hanami's durability is, like,
Hanami's durability is
leagues and bounds
sure
above Megumi's.
So are you saying that, like, his durability is this high, therefore his strength is this high?
I'm saying at the very least, he is physically stronger than Megumi if he's able to also dish out, like, similar amounts of damage to Todo and Yuji.
I don't think he dishes... Like, Yuji and Todo don't really take much damage, though. Like, throughout this entire fight, they don't... Like, even when Yuji gets hit straight on, he's like... What is his mouth bleed a little bit? But they don't really get that hurt. In fact, here, I mean, like, Todo gets hit with some of Hanami's, like, techniques just straight up and doesn't take that much damage, right? Like, it's not like they're getting hurt by all that much.
Okay. While we're on this topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is, just purely on the durability feat, how is Megumi hurting? How is he hurting Hanami?
Divine Dog already showed it can hurt Hanami.
Scratch Hanami with a full running start and a claw. Like let's dial it way back.
A Megumi that would get, like, almost one shot by current Megumi. Sure, yeah.
No way, the gap is that big. Where are you getting this buff from?
I'm just listen. Unless you think, like, Megumi just, like, specifically amped his speed, right, and only his speed during all of his training. If you're saying that, like, he gets an amp relative to his overall abilities in fight,
I will tell you right now, I only consider Megumi to have gotten stronger purely based off cursed energy amount and versatility in his attacks.
That's fine.
That's it.
And that's fine, but cursed energy amount with a sorcerer directly correlates to their speed and strength. Like, those two things are, like, go hand in hand when we're talking about Megumi fighting.
It's not that drastic. It's not so drastic that he then scales to Hanami.
It's drastic enough to the point where before this cursed energy amped, he's slower than Maki, who's slower than Yuji, right? To after this cursed energy amped, he's now relative to arguably faster than Yuji, to a point where it's
how? Show me.
The Awasaka fight is Megumi react.
Dude, no, bro. Awasaka is not like a fucking S tier combatant.
I'm not saying he is.
Speed.
I'm not saying he is. All I'm saying is Awasaka tagged Yuji. He didn't tag Megumi, right? What I'm saying is, like, Awasaka shows he's fast enough to hit Yuji, right? He is not fast enough to hit Megumi. Megumi blocks or dodges every attack that Awasaka throws out this fight. Yuji does not. Yuji blocks or dodges most of them, sure, but Yuji gets hit by one, Megumi does not. And that's my point, right? You can say, like, okay, you know, Awasaka isn't this S tier combatant. Sure, I would agree. But he's able to tag Yuji, who you hold to a high esteem in terms of physicals.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. If you hold Yuji to this high like degree in terms of stats and speed or whatever, right? And Awasaka is able to show that he can tag Yuji, but he can't do the same to Megumi, even while Megumi's, like, in somewhat, like, disadvantaged like attacking modes where he's, like, dodging in midair, blah blah blah, whatever, right? Megumi at bare minimum has to be as fast as Yuji, where really the more consistent argument is he's a little bit faster because of the feats shown here. Right? So he goes, because he's below, even if maybe he's, like, relative to Maki in the Hanami fight, right? Maki is...
Okay, hold on. I will concede... Okay, how about this? We have to... At this current point in time of the Awasaka fight, right? I'll concede and say, sure, Megumi is faster than Yuji at that point. Mm-hmm. However, current Yuji and current Megumi, it's not even... I don't even think it's close again. Like, his speed is probably... And strength, like... far outpace Megumi's now. I'm not saying Megumi's, like, weak by any means, but I'm just saying, like, Yuji's upgrades have also been substantial enough to, like, warrant him being, in my opinion, like, low special grade.
My issue isn't the fact that, like, Yuji's faster. I don't disagree that Yuji's faster now. But it depends on which discussion we're trying to have. Are we trying to have the Hanami one, or are we trying to have the Yuji versus one? The Yuji versus Megumi one?
I'm using Hanami as a scale to highlight what I think Yuji's growth has been like.
Let me put it like this.
Because if...
Okay. Let me phrase my argument like this, right? Megumi has shown, even if you say Megumi is just much slower, I'll just make this argument, right? Megumi has shown that speed advantages are not that crazy against even strength, just physical advantages against him, right? Are not so crazy even when he's nerfed that they can completely end a fight on their own, right? Prime example,
Okay.
and I know you're gonna react wild to this, and it's fine, but Toji and Megumi's little scrap, right? Now, listen, I want to preface
Oh my
Toji.
god.
I knew what you were gonna react like that. Toji would beat up Megumi,
Oh my god.
right? I agree. But my point here is the speed gap. Like Toji would blitz Yuji the same way he's doing to Megumi here, right? Where Megumi's
Okay.
barely able to keep up with him. Even
Okay.
still, where he's barely able to keep up with him with his vision, he's still able to formulate a plan and dodge Toji several times or react to him several times, right? So my argument is not that, Megumi's relative to Toji. My argument is that speed gaps, even gaps that should be larger than the one between him and Yuji, are not enough to throw. And keep in mind, this is a Megumi that's like, he's like, damn, I'm basically out of curse energy from using my domain, right? Um,
Okay.
they're not big enough. They're not. It's not a big enough disadvantage to where he's out of the fight, or it's like a game ender. It definitely puts Yuji in an advantageous position. I will agree. Is it enough to make Megumi like lose? No, I don't think so. Because Toji showed that with a Shikigami, he used two Shikigami, two of his weakest. He used Rapid Escape and he used his frogs, both of which gave him the ability to dodge and react to, or like allowed him to deal with a speed demon like Toji, right? So my argument is just give Megumi full curse energy. The amp he probably has, as we like from this point, as we know, he seems to be stronger and faster than he's ever been, right? The fact that he might be more experienced, or just like progressively getting smarter, right? And I don't think that Yuji's speed advantage, however large you think it is enough to make it like this crazy battle or this crazy gap, right? Because we both agree Toji's faster than Yuji.
Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, and Toji's speed doesn't make it impossible for Megumi to do something, what makes you think that Yuji's speed will make it impossible for Megumi to do something?
You know what? I actually didn't think of it that way. Even I was gonna say, it wasn't like Toji at his like most Toji, but even still, dude, like I think resurrected Toji still washes Yuji physically.
I agree. I mean,
Could,
I think the thing you
oh,
can say Toji doesn't have is maybe his strategic intelligence, but I don't know why his stats should be lower per se.
well, it's not his like original body, is my like opinion.
Yeah,
But okay, so purely for fun, like I am willing to concede that
sure.
in this argument. I still think Yuji would win just purely based off the fact that while Megumi can evade him, he lacks any sufficient means of hurting him to a degree that like stops the fight.
Okay.
Right? Like that's kind of where I fall in the Yuji Megumi thing as it stands right now. I just haven't seen him. If we're talking like damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Megumi historically, as like even as a meme, I think at this point, always takes heavy damage in his fights to like a hilarious extent.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I am willing to concede just that. Like it's not going to be he's not going to be helpless, but he's also still not winning. That is just my opinion.
Sure.
And like my reading of the situation. So what I ask is this, right? Hypothetically, just for fun, if Yuji was there during the Dagon fight,
Yeah.
how does it go? Does he do better than Megumi? Not even because I know Megumi was like still doing the domain thing primarily, but like even still, I think if Yuji was there, it probably would have been just like Toji. It would have been just like a diet version of Toji being there.
I don't think Yuji's doing. He's not helping. I don't think he's doing. Yeah, honestly, hold on. Yuji's not really helping that at all, right? Because if he pops up instead of Megumi somehow, right? Wait, are you saying? Okay, quick question. Are you saying Yuji?
No, instead of Toji.
Oh, okay, instead of Toji. Okay, sure. I was about to say because if the still like always hit domain thing is on, Yuji's just getting eaten alive. But
yeah.
Okay, Yuji pops up instead of Toji. They're losing.
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah, they're losing.
Really?
They're losing because here's the thing. Here's my argument, right? Yuji does not hit Dagon. That's it. He just doesn't hit him. No, that's that. Hold on. Let me rethink about the Dagon fight, right?
Okay, here's my thinking of why it would be harder, right? It would not be as simple as it was with Toji. I will easily easily say that, right? Like that's not even in the conversation.
Sure.
My perspective is that it would just be very high diff, but it's still doable. So my line of thinking is Nabito,
Yeah.
if I remember his name correctly. He was able to still outspeed Dagon for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
but he was unable to damage him sufficiently because of his like basically poor striking power. Or not poor, but like
It's
compared to Dagon,
yeah,
right? Who's like just an octopus man.
yeah. Dagon's
Yeah.
just super strong.
Yeah. I think like Yuji is at least able to damage him. And I'll even go further and I'll say Dagon is almost objectively weaker than Hanami. And if Yuji was able to punish Hanami like that and he was stronger in that fight during Shibuya, so not in that fight, at that stage during Shibuya than he was in the Hanami fight, then like yeah, Dagon's getting punished if he's not able to use his always hit domain.
Okay, so let me ask you
Just
this.
one-on-one.
Let me ask you this question.
All right.
How do you think Nanami's technique with overtime scales to Yuji's striking power?
Oh, Yuji is way stronger than Nanami.
Okay, I was just curious. So you don't think the technique compensates for that in any way?
No, because like Nanami's performance during the Dagon fight, I'll admit, was not as impressive purely because of timing. Like he was there at the when Dagon's always hit was still on.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, he like that obviously took a major hit
Mm-hmm.
durability wise because of that. But I still think Dagon outpaced him in speed and strength. So he's still, even if the 7-3 thing was to work on Dagon, right? A, he can do reverse curse technique because he's a cursed spirit. And B, he's still so much faster than Nanami that let's say Nanami gets an arm, he regrows it, he knows, okay, I can't let this guy hit me in like the chest or the head, especially the head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be that. Like just Nanami just can't physically catch up
The
to
thing
him.
is, Nanami can't even hurt him even when he does get a clear hit. Like, yeah, let me show you real quick. It was I was just doing my my usual JJK quick rereads for videos or whatever.
Yeah.
But Nanami just hits him completely on the arm. Dagon flies down, but there's no damage to him at all. Like,
yeah. Okay.
It's like
So, but wait, but hold on. Was that a strike or was that a 7-3 strike?
I mean, I would assume he's always using his technique, right? Because he's using his weapon here. It doesn't say, "Hey, I'm using 7-3," but I just can't imagine he's not using it against a special grade curse. Like it's a little bit of an assumption, but I feel like it'd be almost like saying like, "Oh, is Yuji using curse energy with this punch?" Most likely, yeah, unless it's like.
But I don't know. Like for me, it's like Nanami's base striking power, like in the verse of Jujutsu Kaisen, is still sufficient, right? Like I wouldn't, like if I was him, right, I wouldn't default to 7-3 every single time. He didn't even really do it with Mahito. Like he still did the like normal strikes with him.
Did he?
Like I mean, up to a certain point,
Yeah.
right? After he figured out the soul thing, was just like that compatibility. Then he switched to 7-3 exclusively.
Let's see. Yeah, I guess. But okay, so let me ask you this: do you think Nanami, like, just going like, because obviously we don't know, it doesn't say he did or didn't. But I feel like against a confirmed or just a special grade, I just have a feeling he would. And that's an assumption I'm making personally. Because I just can't imagine being so dumb as to be a grade 1 sorcerer, seeing a special grade and being like, you know what, my technique that literally makes it easier for me to damage creatures, yeah, I'm not pulling this out.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's just I like to be on the side of if it's not like stated or like shown in a very obvious way.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that is just too subtle.
Sure.
To like be able to know for sure, right? It's not like Black Flash where it's literally black light. You know what I mean? So he doesn't need to say Black Flash.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think because I don't know if Yuji's is Yuji killing like Dagon's like biggest and toughest like Shikigami the way Toji did? I don't know. Because Dagon was still holding back until Toji popped up. Toji pops up and he's like, I'm gonna throw my strongest and hardest Shikigami at you. And then he's just like and then Toji just unshots them. And it's because of a lack of feats, right? But I don't know if Yuji's doing that, right? Because I think the gap between like a perfect heavenly restriction user and Yuji is just night and day.
There's two schools of thought here.
Mm-hmm.
First, is Yuji in Black Flash mode?
Okay.
If yes, then he washes Dagon like mid diff instead of high diff. If he's not at Black Flash yet, I still say he's always gonna like get it with an opponent as strong as Dagon, right? Then it's very high diff, but not impossible.
Okay.
Because I'd say if Hanami was able to survive 4 or 5 Black Flashes from fresh Yuji, then Dagon's not surviving 3 max from like Yuji with some experience.
Sure. I don't know if Yuji's handling him fast enough though. That's another thing. Even if we think 1v1 Yuji could win, I don't know if Yuji's handling him fast enough for Megumi because that was something Dagon tried to wait for. He saw that Megumi was running out of cursed energy and was trying to buy time. I don't know if Yuji's quick enough to kill him. Now this is just a personal perception of how much time passed. It seems like Toji pops up and then maybe 60 seconds of fighting before it's done. Before Dagon was just like mincemeat.
Yeah.
Is Yuji doing that?
And instead of 60 seconds, I'd say 5 to 7 minutes.
And that's the problem. I think if it takes that long, Megumi's domain runs out. Because that's what Dagon implies, at least. He's like he's running.
Yeah, which is why I say like it's extremely high diff without him like having like doing Black Flash like right away.
Sure, yeah.
Right, like it's really Black Flash dependent in a domain situation.
Okay, that's fair enough.
So another thing that I think we messed up with, or at least I messed up with this episode, is I didn't do any personal updates, and I just wanted to like quickly touch on them now. First thing, I started watching One Piece. So funny how that goes, dude. Like last episode or the episode before, you were like, "Oh, you ever gonna watch One Piece?" I'm like, "Oh, probably when they find out when they reveal what the One Piece is." And like a week later, I'm like, "I guess I'm gonna start watching One Piece."
Gotcha. How are you liking it so far?
Oh, dude, it's great so far. I had a guy comment on I think last episode that if world building was the thing that like really does it for me, I was gonna love One Piece's, and they nailed it, dude. One Piece's world building actually fucking crazy, like actually insanely like amazing. I don't know how Oda does it. Few things that surprised me. Number one, it's not generic. Like I don't know where people are like giving me these like, oh, One Piece is the most generic like shonen story ever made. I'm watching this, I'm like, this is amazing. Like there are still expectations being subverted. There are still stakes. Death isn't like weird in the story. Like it's still compelling. Like I don't know. It's not as like black and white. Like if I know I'm like pretty much a noob to One Piece. I'm only 127 episodes in, but like if you come out of watching or reading One Piece and you're like, this is the most generic story I've ever read, I don't think you comprehended it correctly. Like you definitely didn't like read it like correctly. I don't know. Like it's so nuanced, dude. It's got like so many like layers. I don't know. Like these characters have so much depth. Like Oda's actually amazing.
I'm glad you're enjoying your One Piece experience.
Wow. So you're one of the people, huh?
I got 100 chapters, like 11 volumes in, I think, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm good. Go pass. You know, I'm happy for you.
First like in Naruto, now this shit. There's really no hope for you, dude.
Let me not say what was on my mind. Let me not. Anyways, yeah, I am glad that you're enjoying One Piece. Somebody has to. And
you know, honestly, at this point, I almost feel compelled to watch Naruto. To make like a big 3 video. It just, I can't stand the idea of watching hot garbage for like hours on end of my life.
Are you
like,
watching One Piece?
Can you imagine? Ha ha ha.
Just saying.
Bro, One Piece is not hot garbage. You don't even believe that take. Don't make it at me.
Let me relax. Because One Piece fans are rabid, so you know they'll find my address if I say Luffy's not the best protagonist ever. So let me chill.
Bro, see, this is how I know. We like what's his name? Kubo lucked out with Bleach. He made sure everybody knew how like checked out he was, and in the end, he was like, "If this thing sucks, fuck you. I want to go on vacation. I've been doing this shit for 15 years. I'm done." You know, he was like, "Yeah, I acknowledge that some of it might be shit. Fuck you. I'm going. Like, fuck you anyway. I'm leaving." But like the mangaka of Naruto, he's still going in every day with a straight face, doing the shit. He's like, "Ooh, 3rd graders about to eat good today."
Shit, I mean, he made peak fiction. I'd be pretty happy with, I'd be pretty excited if I, made one of the best
I
anime and
wouldn't
manga ever.
I
So,
wouldn't call Naruto neither peak nor fiction.
oh, it's real shonen. I feel you. So real, it transcends the concept of fiction. I agree with you. I agree with you.
Dude, I swear,
It's beyond fiction.
the series finale of this podcast is gonna be both of us lacing up the gloves and duking it out in the ring,
Yeah.
like once and for all.
Fair. I'll fight for Naruto. You can fight for One Piece, and
So,
Naruto's gonna get an easy victory for real. Nah, but
bro,
overall, I am happy you're enjoying One Piece. I will say that. I can enjoy it. Well, I won't say I can't enjoy it, but I haven't enjoyed it in my attempts. But it is always fun to have other people like enjoy series. I think it's just a good thing in general.
bro, I can't wait to be a One Piece YouTuber now. Ooh, can't wait to. I'm rubbing my hands together, dude. I'm excited. I got so many like takes, and unlike with Bleach, they're not all gonna be like negative.
Unfortunately, I mean, yeah. I'm looking forward to those. Looking forward to the One Piece takes.
Speaking of Bleach for a hot second, I was thinking about like my next video is gonna be a Bleach video, and I guess this is like a good way to transition into our next topic, which is just like videos that like are solo videos. I'm planning out my comeback. Finally, off my hiatus, I'm back on my grind. Not fully engaged yet. Like I'm still heavily out of practice. I looked at my most recent date. The last video I uploaded was the Bleach video, right? You ready for this shit?
What's up?
40 days. 40 days, dude.
40 days, bro. You might as well have started another YouTube channel at that point. That's
I
wild.
know. Dude, I basically did. I've shot 10 episodes. Was it like 4 or 5 episodes of the podcast since then?
That's kind of crazy.
That's like half our catalog.
Yeah. Oof. Man, that is 40 days. That's wild.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I'd say 15-ish of those days were because of quarantine.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because like when I got COVID. So I would have like honestly made my video like 2 weeks sooner.
Yeah.
The rest was just like holiday break. So just a little like kind of thoughts about getting back in to the YouTube video making grind. I was looking over my script. I actually wrote it a month ago. No, at this point, 2 months ago. And I was rereading it back because I just didn't look at it after I finished writing it. And I looked at it with fresh eyes, and I was like, I'm an idiot. Who the fuck let me hold a pen? Like who? Like why am I allowed? Like how did I graduate? You know what I mean? Like, and dude, and I have a minor in English. That's the worst fucking part. I almost felt the need to like ask for my money back. Like that's how bad this script
all right,
was.
give me that. Come on now. I'm returning this degree. This ain't.
And I wanted to record that day, but like I just spent the entire night like basically overhauling the script. You know that intro that I sent you, like to get your opinion on? No joke. I spent an hour and a half just rewriting that intro. I was like, this is the most inefficient, unclear, scatterbrained script I've ever written.
I feel that.
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. All right, bye.
Bye. All right.
Yeah, I know, dude. We're terrible at this.
All right.
This is not news.
Sure.